There is always something special about Thanksgiving. I don't know what. Maybe the giant turkey that took over half the table. Maybe the relatives who would come to dinner and after that start arguing over the most trivial thing. Maybe the cranberry sauce, which was the thing I was in charge of ever since I was a kid. I don't know. But it's something magical in the air every time. This happened 2 years ago. I was 16 at that time. That day, as I woke up and went to brush my teeth, I heard something in the street. With the toothbrush in my mouth and drooling toothpaste all over my slippers, I took a look out of the window. There, I saw a woman. She was running down the street toward the dumpster. But that wasn't the weird part. She was holding a pan in which a turkey was burning. I laughed and sprayed toothpaste all over the mirror. I then did my business, got out of the bathroom, put on my clothes, and wanted to go eat breakfast. But something told me to look out the window one more time. And boy, how I regret doing that. I looked out and saw her next to the dumpster, on her knees, crying her eyes out. I didn't understand what the big deal was. It's just a turkey. People are so sensitive these days, I said while I reached to pull the drapes. But as I did that, she turned her head and she looked right at me. Oh crap, I said. I couldn't move. How could I just stand there, watching a crying woman, and not go out and ask her if she's okay? I mean, my mom and dad taught me better than that. So I closed the drapes, put on my shoes, and went outside. I could hear her crying from inside my house. I looked left and right and saw that no one was around. I guess it's up to me to talk to this crazy lady, I said to myself while I started walking toward her. "Excuse me, are you okay?" I asked her. And that's what she needed to stop crying. But don't get me wrong, I would have preferred her to cry than to start talking endlessly about how Thanksgiving is ruined and that she can't even make a turkey and that she's worthless and so on. But there I was, a 16-year-old, trying to console a middle-aged woman whom I didn't know next to a dumpster. "It's okay, we all make mistakes," I said to her. Then the woman got up from the ground. "I'm Marge. What's your name?" she asked me. I introduced myself, and then, out of the blue, she invited me over to her house so we can drink a cup of tea and talk. I wasn't prepared for such an invitation, and I definitely didn't want to go, and I guess she sensed my hesitation. "Come on, George, I'm all alone on Thanksgiving, and we'll just have a cup of tea. It won't take long," the woman told me. How could I say no? I agreed, and then we started walking toward her house. She didn't live far from mine, but I never saw her in the block. On the way there, I asked her if she moved in recently, and she told me that she did, 1 week ago to be exact. We went inside her house, and it looked strange. She had all these little sculptures of cats and dogs, but they were all white and didn't have any details on them. I took off my shoes, as she asked me to, and then she went into the kitchen to make the tea. "Make yourself at home, George," Marge told me, and I started looking around. Besides those creepy sculptures, there were also a lot of pictures. On the wall, on the mantle, and the table. But the only person in those pictures was Marge. It seemed that she didn't have any family. She didn't have any friends or anything. I took a seat on the couch, and something startled me. My heart stopped at the sound similar to a loud screech. "Ah!" I yelled. Marge came running into the living room. "Is everything okay?" she asked. But before I could answer, I saw something jumping from behind the couch cushions. It was a fat, white cat, similar to the sculptures she had all over the place. "Oh, I see you met Snowball. He likes to hide behind the cushions," the woman told me before returning to the kitchen. As I was looking around the place, she arrived with the tea. "It's chamomile," she told me while smiling, revealing a set of yellow teeth that almost made me throw up. "It's fine," I said while taking a sip. It wasn't hot as I would expect it to be. She started talking about her cat and her sculptures. She told me that it was her hobby, and she liked working with her hands. Of course, as fascinating as I found all that information, I couldn't wait to get out of there. "Can I use the bathroom?" I asked her. "Of course, dear. It's down the hall, last door on your left," she told me. I stood up and went over there, all the while thinking that I need to get home. I saw the bathroom at the end of the hallway, but I tripped on something and fell. I guess she didn't hear me. After I got back up, I saw that the carpet she had was out of place, forming a lump. As I tried to fix it, I felt something under it. Didn't feel like normal hardwood. I put the carpet to the side and I saw a small door right there on the floor. As I was normally a curious person, of course, I opened it, revealing a small box. What I saw in that box made my blood run cold. I saw pictures of boys that were probably my age, or even a year older or younger. They were asleep, I hoped. They had their eyes closed, and the pictures were taken at night with the flash on in some sort of a basement or something. "George, is everything okay?" I heard her voice coming from the living room. Yes, fine," I yelled, hurrying to get the photos back in the box and cover everything with the carpet. But as soon as I did that, I turned around, and there she was, Marge, at the end of the hallway. She was smiling at me. That gave me the creeps. "Look, I don't know what your deal is, but I have to get out of here," I told her. It seemed that she was trying to stop me, and I was prepared to fight for my life. But something unexpected happened. As soon as I got in front of her, she moved aside, letting me pass. "See you later, George," she said before laughing. I didn't think much about it, and I continued walking toward the front door. All of a sudden, my knees felt weak. I couldn't stand up anymore, and I fell to the floor. "What did you do to me?" I asked with the last ounce of strength that I had. "It seemed you liked the tea," Marge said before I blacked out. "What the hell?" I said right after I woke up. I looked left and right, but all I saw was the back seat of a car. I couldn't stand up as I was tied. My hands and my feet were immobilized. "Help! Let me go!" I yelled again. It looked like the car was moving. I didn't know where this crazy lady was taking me. After about 2 minutes of consciousness, Marge talked to me. She spoke something that I couldn't understand, and started laughing as if everything that was going on was funny. I struggled to get free, but of course I couldn't. The woman knew what she was doing. I wasn't the first kid she had abducted. I kept asking her all these questions, but she just ignored me. Instead of answering, all she did was hum a stupid song. After about 15 minutes of driving, I felt the car veer right. It seemed that we stopped. Marge turned off the engine, and then she put her hand on me. I was stuck in a position where I couldn't see much, but she turned me around so I could face her. She told me not to struggle, and that we're going to have a nice Thanksgiving together. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew I was in a lot of trouble. I knew that my life was in danger, and I had to do anything I could to escape. The woman told me that we're about to go to the edge of town. She rented a place there, and as she put it, it was a cozy place in which to have dinner. She started driving again, but this time, to make sure I was quiet, she put a ball of fabric in my mouth. That way I wouldn't give her any trouble. After about 10 minutes, Marge stopped the car. This time I could see where we were. It seemed that she stopped at a supermarket which was open on Thanksgiving. She turned around with that creepy smile of hers, and she told me to be quiet. Then she took some sort of blanket and put it on top of me. Even though she had tinted windows, she didn't want to take a chance of anyone seeing me tied up inside the car. Marge got out. While I was alone, I struggled to escape. I moved around so much that my wrist started bleeding from the rope. She eventually came back, and I saw that she bought an already cooked turkey. She told me that we're going to have the best Thanksgiving dinner ever. She started the car again, and in no time we were out of town. She ditched the main road and took a left turn. It seemed that we were driving on a country road. I could feel all the bumps in the road from the back seat. "We're almost there," she told me while looking at me through her rear view mirror. She then stopped the car one last time. She got out, opened the back door, and dragged me out of her car. She left me there next to the car in the dirt and told me that she needs to get the turkey inside first. My head was facing the ground, but as I turned around, I saw that we were next to some abandoned building. It was a small building with all of its windows boarded up. Marge came out through the front door, and she was holding a knife. I was scared out of my mind. I thought that she would come and put that knife right between my eyes. As she approached me, I started squirming on the ground. She started laughing and then looked at the knife. "Don't worry, honey, I'm not gonna kill you right here in the open. We're gonna have dinner first," the deranged woman told me. She then dragged me inside. The place was empty. It only had another door, a table, and 2 chairs. I don't know where that other door would take me. Without wasting any time, she grabbed me and placed me on one of the chairs at the table. She was exceptionally strong for a woman her age. Then she took out that ball of fabric from inside my mouth. Finally, I could speak again. "What the hell are you doing? You know you're not going to get away with this, right? I bet my family's looking for me right now," I told the crazy lady, but she didn't seem bothered by my words. She seemed more concentrated on carving the turkey. She cut me a piece, she cut herself a piece, and then she started to eat. I was still tied up, and I asked her, how was I supposed to eat? She told me to use my mouth. But then I had an idea. It was a risky one. I would ask her to help me cut the piece of turkey I had on my plate, and then while she would be close to me, I would headbutt her in the face. "Marge, can you help me cut my food? I don't think I can eat it like that," I told her. The woman rolled her eyes, but eventually she got up from her seat, and holding the knife in her right hand, she marched over. As she was cutting the meat, I hit her right in the nose with my forehead. Marge screamed as she took a few steps back. I thought I would knock her out, but that didn't happen. As she was squirming down there, I grabbed it with my hands tied behind my back and managed to cut the rope. "Finally," I said, while I used my free hands to untie my feet. Marge got up and came toward me, but having the knife, I had the upper hand. "Go right over there and don't make any sudden moves," I told her, directing the woman toward the door, which I didn't know what had behind it. I was pointing the knife at her and told Marge to open it. "You don't want to do that," she said, but I insisted. Finally, she opened the door, and then what I saw shocked me. Several corpses were spread across the concrete floor. They were boys close to my age. They either had their necks cut or were stabbed in the face or chest. "You sick fuck!" I yelled. I noticed that there was a key in the keyhole. I grabbed it and locked Marge inside. The next thing I did was to get into her car and drive to town. I arrived at my house. The police were already there. My family called them because I was missing. I told them everything about Marge, and we went back to the building. As we entered, I noticed that the door was open. I ran toward that room, and then I yelled, "Fuck! She escaped!" There was no sign of Marge, only the corpses I found earlier. The police started an investigation and returned the bodies to their families, but the murderer was never caught. And even to this day, I'm afraid to walk the streets alone.
This happened to me right before last Halloween. I wasn't on good terms with the owner of my apartment. The place is in pretty bad shape, and the fact that the owner refused to fix the issues like the water leaking in the kitchen made me want to look for another place to stay. It didn't take long, and after 2 days of browsing the internet for the perfect apartment, I found it. Immediately, I called the owner. "Hey, I'm interested in the apartment," I told him. Yeah, that sounds great. There's only one problem," he told me on the phone. "Please don't tell me there's a leaking pipe in the kitchen," I replied. "Oh no, nothing like that. I'm actually out of town for a week, but you can come on by and take a look at it," he told me. Fast forward, and after about 15 hours of dealing with the leak in my kitchen, I finally arrived at the new building, which I hope didn't have those sorts of problems. As I was standing outside, the building looked deserted. It had 3 floors, and as I walked up to the 3rd, where the apartment was, I didn't hear any noise, nor did I see anyone. It looked like the entire place was empty. I got to the door, and a sticky note was stuck to it. "Call me when you see this. Signed, Todd." That was the owner's name. I called him, and he said that he had reached a decision. Since I wanted to move in right away, he would let me do that. Also, he told me about the whereabouts of the key. It was hidden under the plastic plant that charmingly decorated the seemingly deserted hallway. I took out the key and opened the door. As I made the first step in, I heard a noise coming from the apartment right at the end of the hallway. It sounded like some sort of banging, but I could only hear it for a couple of seconds. I didn't think twice about it. I was too excited to see if this new place is going to be okay, or am I about to start looking for an apartment all over again? I got in, and I wasn't disappointed. "Not bad," I said to myself while walking around the house. Yeah, it wasn't anything special, but it was clean and I had a lot of space. The furniture was okay, and most importantly, everything was dry. No leaking pipes this time. The next day was Halloween, and since I love the holiday, I decided that I needed to go to the store and get some candy for the kids. But as I took a look at the time, I postponed the trip until the next morning. I was really tired. I had the worst sleep that night. I kept having cold sweats, and I had a feeling that something was lurking outside my door. I even opened it a couple of times to make sure that no one was there. All I felt was a chill as I looked down the hallway, but nothing else. So I blamed it on being in a new place. The next day, I set my new apartment up for Halloween. Candles, cobwebs, and the works. As nighttime came, I was ready for the kids to arrive. "I hope I didn't buy all this candy for nothing," I said while I waited with a huge smile on my face. But as the minutes and finally hours went on, I realized that no kid would come and trick or treat in the building. I opened my apartment window to see what was going on outside. Lots of kids, accompanied by their parents, were simply walking past my building. Maybe the fact that I was the only apartment with the light on made them think the place was almost deserted. I went back inside and turned on my TV. "I guess it'll be a boring Halloween," I said while changing channels left and right. All of a sudden, I heard someone knocking at my door. "Trick-or-treaters?" I said to myself while becoming more and more excited. I got up, grabbed the bowl of candy, put on my plastic devil horns, and opened the door. "Hello," I said, but shortly I realized that no one was there. I looked left and right, and there wasn't any sign of trick-or-treaters. "I know I heard someone knocking at my door," I said while being confused. I got back inside, put the bowl on the table, and sat back on the couch. Again, I heard banging, and of course, full of hope, I went back to the door. Just as the last time, no one was there. But as I looked around, I heard banging coming from the apartment down the hall. "So that's what I heard," I said to myself. But a thought popped into my mind. Why don't I go and introduce myself? There was only 2 people living in the entire building. Why shouldn't we know each other? I said. As I was walking down the hall, I felt it was getting colder and colder. There weren't any windows open or anything like that. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. The banging noise coming from inside. I knocked again. "Come on, I know you're home," I said to myself, but no one answered. I decided to try a 3rd time, and if they're still not going to answer me, I would just quit. But before my knuckle touched the wooden door, it opened. On its own, apparently. "Hello?" I said, while standing at the door and looking around. Again, I heard the banging. It seemed to be coming from the bedroom or something. "Hello? I'm your neighbor from down the hall," I said while taking my first step into the apartment. The place was kind of creepy. It was filled with all sorts of photos on the wall. The banging intensified. I walked towards the place where the noise came from. "Hello?" I asked while knocking on the door. I didn't want to open it right away, but as soon as I knocked, a growling noise scared the shit out of me. "What the hell?" I thought. I opened the door, and what I saw left me speechless. Right there on the floor was a man, shackled in chains and with a muzzle on. The man had bloodshot eyes, bulging veins on his entire body, and cuts on his arm. "Are you okay?" I asked without knowing how to react. The man just stared at me and started to bang his head against the wall. That was the banging noise all this time. I tried to get close to him so I could get those chains off his wrists, but as soon as I made 2 steps forward, I felt an electrical pulse on the top of my head and everything went black. All I remember is waking up in my bed dressed in pajamas. "What happened?" I asked while getting up. My head hurt tremendously, especially at the very top. Then I suddenly remembered the guy in the apartment. I rushed there, opened the door, and there wasn't anyone. The place was completely empty. No photos, no furniture, and especially no people. I hung out there for a while in hopes of finding some clues or something about that guy who looked like he was in so much pain. But as it turned out, the place looked like no one ever lived there. I never knew what I saw exactly. I even called the owner and asked him about that apartment. He said it has always been empty. I don't know if he was lying or not, but one thing was certain. It was the weirdest Halloween night I ever had.